Ms. Greengold, you were going to make.
Yes, sir. I would like to ask the commission if we could please move. I would like to move that we put 5B, which is the height limit discussion, on the agenda for next month. I think because of time limitation that we need to move something tonight, and I prefer that we move that one to January if we can. So I move that we please amend the agenda to say just that.
Is there any objection?
I think the January meeting is going to be pretty packed also, but I guess we can, if we have time for it, we can get to it in January.
This is Kathleen. I don't know if this would help, but my one of the comments I wanted to make about the agenda is item number 7, which is the adjournment at 9 o'clock. I totally understand that the meetings can be lengthy, and the last month's meeting did go to after 10, but I don't think we should arbitrarily just decide to close at 9 if we still have discussion. And I guess I'm bringing this up if
you don't mind, can we deal with one issue at a time? And
well,
that is,
I was saying that, Larry, in the fact that if we don't have the time limit to 9 o'clock, would we be able to discuss the height requirement tonight?
we will only have a time limit of 9 o'clock if the commission votes to adjourn at 9 o'clock. If the commission wants to continue, we can continue. We have an amendment by Ms. Greengold to delete the 5A, or 5B, I guess it is, the motion to for the height limit. There's no objection that I've heard, so we will make that amendment to the agenda. And now, Ms. Peralt, you suggested that we delete the motion at 9 o'clock. I'm going to make a motion at 9 o'clock. If everybody votes against it, that's fine with me. I just want to make it available because we can't continue these meetings to be indefinite. So any other discussion of the agenda?
Yes. For the motion in item C on the agenda, is that meant to reflect the motion that we discussed would be being brought up by me during this meeting? Because that's not my motion.
Okay. Yes, to answer your question, that was intended to address your motion. It's interesting because that's essentially, I sent the motion to Chris and asked him to tell me what it meant, and that's what he thinks it means. So the motion as written doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. So
exactly. So I'd like to amend item C to reflect the motion that I made and make the motion.
Well, yes, that will be your motion. So yes, item C is your motion.
As written, and Fran has a copy of it over email.
We all have copies. You sent copies out.
Plainly. Okay, I don't understand why it was changed, but I'm glad it will be changed back to what I said.
Yeah, well, it will be your motion to make, so it's whatever you put forward. Is there any more discussion of the agenda? Okay, all in favor of the agenda as amended? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
so I think that's everybody approved the amended agenda. 2 amendments, we delete B from old business, and C is Lori's motion as she states it at the time. Okay, now The meeting minutes, work session meeting minutes from December 2nd. Has everybody has anybody not read them? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 2nd work session. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. The minutes are approved for the December 2nd work session. Now we move on to the review of the revisions for the final site plan for Lot 1 and the residue tract Rod and Reel Incorporated Hotel and Resort redevelopment project. And I'll turn it over to Chris to manage that.
Okay, thank you. I'll just give a brief overview of my staff report. And then I've noticed that the applicants are here. Eric Blitz typically is the agent for the applicant in presenting, or at least initiating the presentations. After a brief presentation, I'm certain that Mr. Chairman, you'll want to hear from Mr. Blitz and his team. On September 17th, 2017, the Planning Commission approved the final site plan for the Chesapeake Beach Resort and Spa project, the Rod and Reel project. It included a variety of elements, including restaurants and gaming facility and conference space and added hotel rooms to the complex and a number of site improvements as well. And the applicant has gone on to obtain all necessary federal permits like floodplain permits and state permits like fire marshal permits and MDE approvals, and the county building permits have all been secured. And the work has been moving forward towards completion. When it wasn't a few months ago, I was contacted and advised that the applicant would like to propose an amendment or revision to the approved final site plan. And as we talked about it, it occurred to me that the revision was such that I would consider it to be a major revision, certainly not minor. And minor revisions can be approved by the zoning administrator, myself. But a major revision requires that the Planning Commission review it just like it did the original plan. So that's why the applicant has come to you tonight to present the revision. And the revision relates, can be categorized as under two categories. The first is a reorientation of the building mass on what we call phase 2 of the project. And phase 2 is the Rod and Reel building and the associated conference facilities that exist there today. Phase 2 is the building floors that are added to that and the rearrangement of the building blocks, if you will, to build that complex. Phase 1 was the parking garage and a number of other site facilities and improvements to the property. In a nutshell, the first revision involves a set of architectural and building design changes. The revisions consist largely in lowering the proposed 5-story part of the building to 2 stories and repositioning that floor space atop the existing Rod and Reel restaurant, which would raise that part of the building to 4 stories. Essentially, it's a reconfiguration of the floor space and floor plan on the building. The taller element of the building will now be closer to the water and further from the central part of the property. So essentially, they're moving the mass of the building toward the water and building it on top of the existing restaurant, if you're familiar with the property. And that will be at 4 stories rather than 5 stories overall. There are a number of building elevations, and that the applicant provided us, and I included a couple of them in the staff report. One from the view of Fishing Creek, looking at the site, and then one from the parking lot, looking at the site. And you might have remembered that in my staff report, I mentioned that the main atrium, that large structure that is meant to resemble a historic train station, reminiscent of the town's history, that has been changed somewhat. And the essence the basic difference I see is that the hotel spaces would be extended along the rear of that atrium. And the atrium itself would become a smaller type of structure. But I'm certain that the architects that are gathered here tonight will provide a little more detail for the planning commission members. The other change is not as significant, but it involves a sign. It involves the 1936 bar and grill sign. And at the time of the staff report, the applicant didn't have the architectural renderings of that sign. And so in the absence of that sign, I said, if we don't get it in time, please come tonight to be prepared to discuss that and show us the rendering of the sign and the size and the various details. Effectively, the change in the signage for the 1936 bar and grill would be an amendment to the site plan and would allow the applicant to do something different with the signage than what was originally approved a number of years ago. The net effect of the change to the hotel project is that there will be 13 additional rooms. And that comes about largely through the resizing of the spaces and through adding additional building space. The impact of those additional rooms does not influence any of the other aspects of the site's approval or zoning standards. The parking totals are still met. All the other various issues that we typically deal with at site plan review are not really impacted. Stormwater management, for instance, critical area regulations. The issue here is entirely about building massing and essentially design and the movement of those various building elements within and near the building footprint of phase 2. Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. I would like to be able to chime in from time to time if the applicant's presentation raises any particular issues or concerns that I think should be brought to the attention of the commission.
Okay, so you won't be online the whole time, Chris?
No, I will be. I will certainly be here.
Oh, okay. Okay, I wasn't sure what you meant. So the applicant is up next.
Chairman Brown, members of the commission, my name is Eric Blitz. I'm the attorney for the applicant, Rod and Reel Inc. I'll make a brief presentation summarizing the requested amendment to the final site plan that describes how the final buildings were redesigned and in the context of the existing site plan. And then you'll hear from the owner briefly, then Paul Woodburn, the civil engineer, and Jeremy Klein, the architect from WGM Architects.